The humans had made it to the heart of the HFY Empire. After a long, dangerous journey through space and a brutal battle against the alien fleet, they had finally reached the planet. Captain Mark Davis and his team had landed on the surface, determined to destroy the energy core that powered the HFY's war machine. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. The alien forces were strong, but the humans had something the HFY didn't: the will to fight, no matter the cost. The landscape of the alien world was harsh and unwelcoming. Towering black mountains stretched into the sky, and strange, glowing plants dotted the rocky terrain. The air was thick with an unnatural heat, but the humans pressed on, their mission clear. They had come this far, and they would not turn back now. Captain Davis led the charge, his heart heavy with the weight of their task. His team was exhausted from the long journey, but they were resolute. They had already fought so hard for their survival, and now they were ready to give everything for their future. Every step they took brought them closer to the energy core, the heart of the HFY's power. If they could destroy it, they could finally bring an end to the war and drive the alien invaders off Earth. But the closer they got, the more dangerous the mission became. The HFY had anticipated an attack, and they had set up powerful defenses around the energy core. Alien soldiers, equipped with advanced armor and weapons, stood guard, ready to stop any intruders. The humans fought bravely, using every tactic they had learned in the long months of the war. They moved quickly and decisively, striking down the enemy in surprise attacks and avoiding direct confrontation whenever possible. The journey to the core was filled with obstacles. Alien traps, energy barriers, and fierce alien soldiers blocked their path at every turn. But the humans refused to give up. With every fight, every battle, they grew stronger, their resolve unbreakable. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for their families, their homes, and the future of the planet. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the energy core. It was an immense structure, pulsating with raw power. The core was the heart of the HFY's technology, and without it, their entire war effort would collapse. The humans planted explosives around the core, knowing that they had only one chance to destroy it. They set the timer and ran for cover, knowing that the explosion would send shockwaves throughout the planet. As the countdown began, the HFY forces launched a final, desperate attack. The alien soldiers stormed the area, determined to stop the humans from completing their mission. The final battle was brutal, with both sides giving everything they had. Captain Davis fought fiercely, his team by his side, pushing back the alien invaders as the timer ticked down. With a deafening roar, the energy core exploded. A massive shockwave rippled through the planet, and the ground shook beneath their feet. The HFY's power was gone. Their fleets were disabled, and their armies were thrown into disarray. The war was over. The humans had won. Exhausted and battered, Captain Davis and his team stood in the ruins of the HFY Empire. The battle was over, but the cost had been high. Many lives had been lost, and the scars of war would remain. But humanity had proven something that day. They were not just survivors, they were fighters, and they had taken back their world. The HFY had underestimated humanity, but now they would never forget the unmatched bravery of the human spirit. The Earth was free, and humanity had emerged victorious. The fight was over, but the future, filled with hope and promise, had only just begun. The fleet of human ships, led by Captain Mark Davis, broke free from Earth's atmosphere, heading into the unknown reaches of space. This mission was the most dangerous one yet. Their destination was the heart of the HFY Empire, the home world of the alien invaders. It was a place where no human had ever set foot, a world heavily guarded and filled with unknown dangers. But the humans had come too far to turn back now. Their planet had been invaded, their cities destroyed, and their families lost. But they had never given up. They had fought back, and now they would bring the fight to the enemy. As the fleet traveled deeper into space, The weight of the mission hung heavy on everyone's shoulders. Each member of the crew knew that this could be the end. If they failed, it would mean the end of humanity's fight for survival. But if they succeeded, it would be a turning point in the war, and the HFY Corps would be forced to retreat for good. Dr. Emily Harris, the scientist who had helped develop many of the weapons used by the Resistance, sat at the heart of the fleet's command center. She was working on a new device, one that would disrupt the power sources on the HFY Corps' homeworld. If they could disable the core energy supply, it would render the alien fleet useless and put an end to their plans to control Earth. But it was a risky device, and there was no guarantee that it would work. Still, Emily was confident. She had seen the resilience of humanity firsthand, and she believed that with every ounce of their strength, the humans could overcome anything. The journey to the HFY Corps homeworld was long and perilous. The fleet faced many dangers along the way, including asteroid fields and remnants of destroyed alien ships. But the humans pressed on, guided by their determination to end the war once and for all. As they approached the enemy's home planet, the fleet's sensors detected the full scale of the HFY Corps defenses. The planet was surrounded by massive energy shields and fleets of alien warships. The odds were overwhelmingly against them, but the humans had no choice but to push forward. The war had cost them everything, and now they had to make the ultimate sacrifice. Captain Davis, standing on the bridge of the flagship, gave the order to engage. The fleet moved into battle formation, ready to face the full might of the HFY Corps. The first wave of enemy ships launched an attack, but the humans were prepared. They used the same tactics that had brought them success on Earth. Quick, precise strikes followed by rapid retreats. The alien ships were more advanced, but the humans had learned how to fight in ways the HFY Corps could not predict. As the battle raged in space, Captain Davis and his team made their way down to the surface of the alien planet. They had to reach the energy core, the heart of the HFY Corps' power, and destroy it. The terrain was unlike anything they had ever seen. Strange, alien landscapes filled with glowing plants and harsh, jagged mountains. It was a hostile world, but the humans had no fear. They had come too far to fail now. With every step, they knew they were getting closer to the heart of the HFY Corps empire. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and there was no turning back. The final assault had begun. The humans were no longer fighting just for survival. They were fighting for victory. They had proven their bravery and resilience. Now, it was time to finish what they had started. The retreat of the HFY Corps had sent a ripple of hope through the human resistance. It had been a hard-fought victory, but it was not the end. The HFY Corps were still a powerful enemy, and while they had lost their command center, they were far from defeated. The humans knew this was their chance to press the advantage. The battle for Earth had turned into a war of attrition, and the resistance was ready to make the next move. Captain Mark Davis and his team had returned to their base after the successful mission to destroy the alien communication hub. They were battered and bruised but victorious. Now they had to prepare for what was coming next. The HFY Corps were regrouping, and their fleet was still strong. The humans had crippled their coordination, but the war was far from over. As the days passed, the resistance forces began to make their next plan. They had learned much from the wreckage of the alien ships and the technology they had captured. Dr. Emily Harris, who had become one of the most important figures in the war, worked tirelessly to improve the human weapons and defenses. With the help of engineers and scientists, she had figured out a way to disrupt the alien ships' power sources, making them more vulnerable to attack. The humans now had a real chance to break the HFY Corps' hold on Earth. The next mission was the most daring one yet. The humans planned to strike at the heart of the HFY Corps empire itself. They would travel to the aliens' homeworld, a place that no human had ever set foot on, to destroy the source of their power. The HFY Corps had established a stronghold on Earth because of the vast energy resources they had found there. If the resistance could take away the energy supply that powered the HFY Corps' fleets, it would cripple their ability to fight. This was a dangerous mission. It required stealth, precision, and the full force of the resistance. The humans had learned how to fight and survive, but this mission would be unlike anything they had faced before. The Harcourt's homeworld was heavily guarded, and even if the resistance could find a way to get there, they would have to overcome countless obstacles. But humanity had something that the Harcourt could never understand: the power of unity. Every part of the world was now fighting for the same cause, from the cities in ruins to the survivors hiding in the mountains. It was a global effort, and every person, soldier, scientist, civilian, was playing their part. Captain Davis led the charge, assembling a team of the best and brightest resistance fighters. They would travel in a small fleet of human ships, equipped with the latest technology and guided by the intelligence they had gathered from the alien wreckage. The mission would take them far from Earth, into the depths of space, to the heart of the Harcourt Empire. As the fleet prepared for launch, a sense of determination filled the air. The humans knew they were facing their greatest challenge yet, but they also knew that they had the will to succeed. They had already defied the odds and taken back their world from the alien invaders. Now they would strike at the very heart of the enemy's power. The war was not over, but the humans were no longer the underdogs. They had learned to fight, to adapt, and to never give up. They were about to take the fight to the Harcourt's doorstep, and they would stop at nothing to win. The fate of Earth and humanity depended on this final mission, and they were ready. The Harcourt were not accustomed to defeat. Throughout their history, they had conquered countless worlds with their advanced technology and overwhelming military power. But humanity had shown them something they had never expected: resilience. With every battle, every victory, and every loss, the humans grew stronger, and the Harcourt began to realize they were facing an enemy unlike any other they had encountered before. The humans' continued success in the war was starting to have a visible impact on the Harcourt forces. The alien commanders began to question their strategy. The resistance, which had once been a scattered group of survivors, had become a well-coordinated military force. They had learned how to use the alien technology against its creators, and their attacks were no longer limited to small-scale sabotage. Now, the humans were striking at the heart of the alien empire, targeting command centers and key resources. Captain Mark Davis stood at the head of a large operation, one of the biggest yet. The mission was to infiltrate a massive Harcourt base, located deep in the mountains of South America. This base was critical to the aliens' operations on Earth. It housed their primary communication hub and contained a stockpile of weapons and energy sources that the resistance needed to cut off. If they could destroy this base, the Harcourt would lose their ability to coordinate attacks, weakening their hold on Earth even further. The mission was risky. The base was heavily guarded, and the Harcourt had stationed elite forces to protect it. But the humans had an advantage now. They had gained intelligence from the survivors they had freed from Harcourt-controlled areas, and Dr. Emily Harris had improved the disruptor technology that could shut down the alien defenses. With these tools, the resistance had a chance. As Davis and his team moved toward the base under the cover of darkness, they encountered heavy resistance. The alien soldiers, with their advanced armor and weapons, were formidable opponents. But the humans fought back with every ounce of their strength. They used their knowledge of the terrain, their agility, and their resourcefulness to outmaneuver the Harcourt forces. The fight was intense, but the humans had the advantage of unity and purpose. Meanwhile, on the front lines of the human fleet, the battle against the alien ships continued to rage. The Harcourt had not given up on their invasion, but their tactics were now becoming predictable. The humans, who had once been fleeing in fear, were now engaged in coordinated counterattacks. The human fleet was smaller, but it was more agile, using hit-and-run tactics to disable the alien ships and force them to retreat. Back on the ground, Captain Davis's team reached the heart of the Harcourt base. They planted explosives at key locations and activated the disruptor devices. As the countdown began, they fought their way out, engaging with alien soldiers who were now desperately trying to stop them. The explosion rocked the base, sending shockwaves through the alien forces. The humans had done it. They had destroyed the heart of the HFY core operations on Earth. The HFY core's communication systems were down. Their ability to coordinate attacks was crippled, and their resources were scattered. The retreat had begun. In space, the alien fleet was in disarray. With their command center destroyed, they were forced to abandon their planned assault and retreat to regroup. The humans had struck a decisive blow. It wasn't the end of the war, but it was the beginning of the HFY core's downfall. Humanity had proven it was no longer a helpless species, but a force to be reckoned with. The HFY core were retreating, and Earth's resistance was taking back their world, one battle at a time. The victory over Vrax sent shockwaves through the HFY core forces. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens were on the back foot. Their once invincible command structure had been thrown into chaos, and the humans had proven they could strike decisively. The message was clear. The resistance was not just surviving. It was growing stronger, more organized, and more dangerous with each passing day. But the HFY core were not going to give up so easily. They had underestimated humanity before, and now they were furious. The alien leaders decided to escalate the war, sending in reinforcements and preparing for a final, all-out assault. The humans knew that this was coming. The HFY core had suffered a major setback, but they were far from defeated. The resistance, now united and more confident than ever, began to prepare for the aliens' next move. Captain Mark Davis, who had led many successful operations, knew that this would be their biggest challenge yet. The HFY core would come with everything they had, and the humans would need to be ready. Dr. Emily Harris, the brilliant scientist who had cracked the alien technology, worked day and night with her team to refine their weapons. The disruption devices they had used to bring down Vrax were now being mass-produced. They were simple but effective, small portable devices that could disable the HFY core's energy shields, making them vulnerable to attacks. The human engineers were also working on reverse engineering alien tech, creating new weapons and defenses from the wreckage of destroyed ships. The global resistance was no longer a scattered network of small groups. It was an organized force. From underground bunkers in Europe to hidden bases in the deserts of Africa, humanity's fighters were preparing for the battle that would decide the fate of Earth. The HFY core had made the mistake of thinking humanity was weak, but now the aliens were going to face an entirely different kind of enemy. The day of the final assault arrived. The HFY core fleet moved in, sending wave after wave of fighters and warships into Earth's atmosphere. Their plan was to crush the resistance once and for all, to wipe humanity from the planet. The human forces were ready. They had built up their own fleet, small but growing, and now they were prepared to defend Earth's skies. The first wave of HFY core ships attacked with ruthless precision, but humanity had learned how to fight back. The human fleet, though outnumbered, used their knowledge of the terrain and their guerrilla tactics to avoid direct confrontation. They hit the HFY core ships with surprise attacks, targeting weak points and exploiting openings in the alien defenses. On the ground, the resistance fighters engaged in fierce battles, using the same hit-and-run tactics that had served them so well before. They ambushed alien patrols, sabotaged supply lines, and disrupted the HFY core's communication networks. The humans fought with an unrelenting spirit, fueled by the memory of all they had lost and the desire to protect their home. As the battle raged on, the HFY core began to realize something they hadn't expected. The humans were winning. The alien invaders had expected to crush Earth in a matter of weeks, but instead they were facing a relentless, resourceful enemy that refused to give up. The turning point had come. The humans had proven that their bravery, unity, and determination could overcome even the most powerful of enemies. Now, the HFY core were on the defensive, and humanity was beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The war was far from over, but the tide had turned. Humanity's resistance was no longer a mere spark. It was a blazing fire, and it would not be extinguished. The war raged on, and Earth's cities had been reduced to rubble. But the human spirit refused to break. Across the world, people who had once lived normal lives were now fighters, defenders, and leaders of a growing resistance. The HFY had made the mistake of thinking humanity would crumble under their assault, but instead they had unknowingly united the planet in a way that no government, army, or leader had ever done before. In secret, small groups of survivors were coming together. They were not just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for their freedom. Ordinary men and women, soldiers and civilians alike, formed makeshift militias. Each group had its own leader, its own tactics, but they all shared the same goal: to push back the alien invaders and take back Earth. They began to communicate with each other, sharing information about HFY movements, weaknesses, and technology. It was in these small communities where humanity's true strength began to show. These fighters were not just relying on brute force. They were using their intelligence, their creativity, and their ability to adapt. The resistance leaders met in secret, exchanging ideas and strategies. It wasn't just the military leaders who contributed. Farmers, teachers, scientists, and even children all found ways to help the cause. Every person had something to offer, and they used their skills to contribute to the fight. Captain Mark Davis, now a central figure in the resistance, was one of the key leaders of a group in the ruins of Chicago. His military experience and leadership had made him the perfect candidate to organize the survivors into a more structured force. He knew that the only way to survive was to be smart, to use guerrilla tactics, and to avoid direct confrontation with the overwhelming might of the HFY. They would not defeat the aliens in a straight fight, but if they could strike quickly and disappear into the shadows, they could make their presence felt. Dr. Emily Harris, who had discovered the weakness in the alien technology, had become one of the most important figures in the resistance. Her work was helping to turn the tide of the war. The resistance fighters were using makeshift weapons and technology, including improvised explosives and energy disruptors, all based on Dr. Harris' research. Humanity was learning to fight with what they had, and they were getting better at it every day. As the network of resistance groups expanded, the HFY began to notice. They had underestimated humanity's ability to organize, to resist, and to fight back. The alien invaders were used to crushing opposition with brute force, but humanity's strength was in its unity. From different corners of the world, humans were coming together to fight the aliens, not just as individuals, but as a united force. The HFY commanders grew more frustrated. They thought that their superior technology would make them unstoppable, but now they were faced with something they couldn't predict. Humans were not only surviving, they were evolving into an enemy they could not easily defeat. Their resistance network was growing stronger, more organized, and more dangerous with each passing day. The aliens had thought they could break humanity's spirit, but instead, they had made it unbreakable. The HFY had underestimated humanity. After their first wave of destruction, they assumed Earth would fall quickly. They believed the human race was weak, primitive, and would bow to their superior technology without a fight. But what the HFY didn't understand was the strength hidden in humanity's heart. The aliens had wiped out entire cities, leaving trails of destruction across the planet. Their fleet hovered in the sky, ready to strike again, confident that no one could stop them. But on the ground, things were very different. In every ruined city, survivors fought back. People who had never held a weapon in their lives were now part of a global resistance. They were using whatever they could: guns, knives, even homemade bombs. Humanity, though outmatched, was adapting quickly. At the heart of the resistance were people like Captain Mark Davis, a retired soldier who had been living a quiet life until the invasion began. He had led a small group of survivors in a fight against a HFY patrol. His experience in combat had helped them survive, but it was their determination to protect their families that had kept them alive. They didn't have advanced weapons or high-tech armor, but they used what they had and made the most of it. Meanwhile, scientists around the world were working tirelessly to understand the alien technology. Dr. Emily Harris, a leading physicist, had been studying the wreckage left by the invaders. She discovered a small but important weakness in the alien ship's energy shields. The HFY core had assumed their shields were impenetrable, but Dr. Harris found a way to bypass them. Her breakthrough gave humanity a fighting chance. The global resistance began to spread as more people realized they could fight back. In places like Tokyo, Paris, and Cairo, small bands of soldiers and civilians launched hit-and-run attacks against the HFY core forces. They targeted supply lines, communications, and the alien soldiers. The HFY core were unprepared for this kind of strategy. They had expected to defeat humanity with overwhelming force, but humans had turned the tide with ingenuity and courage. The alien commanders were frustrated. They had believed that humans would fold under pressure, but instead, they were adapting. The HFY core had not expected resistance to grow in strength, and they didn't know how to stop it. Their leaders decided to escalate the war, sending in more ships, more troops, and more firepower. They wanted to crush the rebellion once and for all. But with each new attack, humanity became stronger. They learned quickly, fought with relentless determination, and most importantly, never gave up. The more the HFY core tried to break their spirit, the more determined the humans became. As the aliens prepared for a final devastating assault, they began to realize something they had never expected. Humanity was not a weak species. The humans' bravery, their unity in the face of impossible odds, had turned the tide. The HFY core might have had advanced technology, but the one thing they couldn't understand was the strength that came from the human will to fight for survival. The HFY core had underestimated humanity. After their first wave of destruction, they assumed Earth would fall quickly. They believed the human race was weak, primitive, and would bow to their superior technology without a fight. But what the HFY core didn't understand was the strength hidden in humanity's heart. The aliens had wiped out entire cities, leaving trails of destruction across the planet. Their fleet hovered in the sky, ready to strike again, confident that no one could stop them. But on the ground, things were very different. In every ruined city, survivors fought back. People who had never held a weapon in their lives were now part of a global resistance. They were using whatever they could: guns, knives, even homemade bombs. Humanity, though outmatched, was adapting quickly. At the heart of the resistance were people like Captain Mark Davis, a retired soldier who had been living a quiet life until the invasion began. He had led a small group of survivors in a fight against a HFY core patrol. His experience in combat had helped them survive, but it was their determination to protect their families that had kept them alive. They didn't have advanced weapons or high-tech armor, but they used what they had and made the most of it. Meanwhile, scientists around the world were working tirelessly to understand the alien technology. Dr. Emily Harris, a leading physicist, had been studying the wreckage left by the invaders. She discovered a small but important weakness in the alien ship's energy shields. The HFY core had assumed their shields were impenetrable, but Dr. Harris found a way to bypass them. Her breakthrough gave humanity a fighting chance. The global resistance began to spread as more people realized they could fight back. In places like Tokyo, Paris, and Cairo, small bands of soldiers and civilians launched hit-and-run attacks against the HFY core forces. They targeted supply lines, communications, and the alien soldiers. The HFY core were unprepared for this kind of strategy. They had expected to defeat humanity with overwhelming force, but humans had turned the tide with ingenuity and courage. The alien commanders were frustrated. They had believed that humans would fold under pressure, but instead, they were adapting. The HFY core had not expected resistance to grow in strength, and they didn't know how to stop it. Their leaders decided to escalate the war, sending in more ships, more troops, and more firepower. They wanted to crush the rebellion once and for all. But with each new attack, humanity became stronger. They learned quickly, fought with relentless determination, and most importantly, never gave up. The more the HFY tried to break their spirit, the more determined the humans became. As the aliens prepared for a final devastating assault, they began to realize something they had never expected. Humanity was not a weak species. The humans' bravery, their unity in the face of impossible odds, had turned the tide. The HFY might have had advanced technology, but the one thing they couldn't understand was the strength that came from the human will to fight for survival. The sun set over New York City, casting a golden glow across the skyline. People were heading home after a long day, unaware that a storm was brewing in the skies above. High above the city, a fleet of alien ships, dark, massive, and glimmering with strange lights, descended from the stars. The HFY, a ruthless alien race, had come to Earth with one goal: to conquer and enslave humanity. They thought they would crush the planet in an instant, for the HFY were technologically advanced, their ships capable of destroying entire cities with a single blast. The first blast came without warning. A bright beam of energy shot down from the lead alien ship, hitting the heart of New York City. Buildings crumbled. Fires erupted. Chaos spread in every direction. People screamed and ran for cover, but no one was prepared for an attack like this. Thousands of innocent lives were lost in the blink of an eye, and the HFY were confident that their power would break humanity's spirit. But something unexpected happened. Amid the destruction, something stirred in the human heart, something the aliens had not foreseen. As the alien ships hovered over the wreckage, ready to unleash more devastation, a group of human soldiers appeared. They were not elite warriors or soldiers from any powerful nation. They were ordinary men and women, average citizens with no idea that they were about to become the planet's last hope. Armed with nothing but rifles and sheer courage, they charged at the alien invaders, firing shots that had no chance of hitting such massive, invulnerable ships. Yet they did not stop. They fought, even knowing they were outmatched and outgunned. A civilian in the crowd, a young woman named Sarah, grabbed a fire extinguisher and ran toward the wreckage of a building, determined to help the injured. Nearby, an old man, once a military veteran, found a discarded weapon and took cover, firing at the invaders. A schoolteacher, frightened but resolute, led a group of children into the underground subway tunnels to keep them safe. These were not heroes in the traditional sense, but in that moment, they all shared one thing: a refusal to surrender. Even as the HFY unleashed wave after wave of energy blasts, humans fought back with everything they had, fueled by an undying spirit to survive. The HFY watched in disbelief. They had expected fear, chaos, and panic. But what they saw was the exact opposite. Despite being far less powerful, humanity was not afraid to stand up and fight. As the day turned into night, and the fires continued to burn, the humans did not back down. The HFY had underestimated them, and this was just the beginning. For the first time in their conquest, the aliens felt something they had never known: doubt. The invasion had begun, but it was clear humans would not give up so easily.